Hey everybody, how the heck are you? It's a beautiful day today out here in Southern Colorado. I don't know how it is in Wall Street or Main Street right now though, but Bob, that's one thing that I think I've noticed. Now tell me if I'm wrong here, because you know a lot more about this than I do, but the past 10 years, we look at the stock market and we look at Main Street and stocks overall, like if you look at the Dow being over 40,000, that's pretty remarkable. I remember when it was at 20,000 and I was like, wow, this is how long is it going to last? But the reason I'm bringing this up is it seems like the better Wall Street does, some of the smaller businesses in Main Street and like the mom and pop shops overall, do they go down when Wall Street goes up? Is it kind of like a balancing act?
Well, I don't think it's a balancing act. I think it's all Wall Street's way. So just to let everybody in on the biggest secret about the stock market is tied to the Fed's balance sheet.
Oh,
So the more the Fed, adds to their balance sheet, the more deficit spending we have. It supports the stock market in general. So that's why it keeps pushing up. But remember, Wall Street takes the majority of the gains that come out of the government and the central banks. Okay. And the wealthy are primarily involved in stock trading, not the middle class and not the lower class. So you can actually have, like we're having now, a massive divergence between what the stock market is doing and what Main Street is doing. Main Street is getting choked off by high interest rates and falling wages. Believe it or not, year over year, average hourly wage rate has fallen. And the reason behind that is that a lot of the high paying jobs are being eliminated or people are retiring, and the jobs that are being created are on the lower half of that average. And so the spending power of the average American is falling. The other thing that people have to bear in mind is that the rich are what's called low velocity economic players. What I mean by that is that they save a lot more of their income than middle and lower people do, right? The lower class, not only don't they make enough, they get money from the government, but it's all spent. The middle class primarily is spending everything they got. I think you have to be making, on average, over $150,000 a year to be saving anything, in your account, because the price of everything is going up so much. And look, you might be saving, but you might have a credit card balance. Okay, so net on net, that's the kind of money you have to make. And if you live in some of the big cities like LA and San Fran and New York, you're probably not saving. If you have kids, probably not saving any money till you get to 250,000. Because if you make $250,000 in New York City, you're only taking home 120 grand. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Okay. And
over
and
half is gone?
well, yeah, I mean, Fed's 39, right? State in New York is, I think, 10. And then you have the city tax on top of that. I think New York State takes 51, 52%. I'm sure one of your listeners that lives there knows that better than I do. I'm in California, it's a 50 percenter. And if you make over $1 million, you get another tax on top of it. So, you can make a lot of money and not have a lot of money, all right, because of the progressive tax rate. And it becomes problematic. And only a lot of these big cities and states, your mortgage is tax, your deduction is limited. So, you only get a $10,000, I think, across the board. So your property tax and your mortgage is capped in terms of what you can write off. So, you're basically being squeezed. So you have to make a whole lot of money, or what's really happening is people aren't getting married and don't have any kids. Okay, which is a different problem altogether, because that's what funds Social Security. So basically, they're killing people for today, to get voted in today, and they're not worried about tomorrow. But that's what's happening. So we have a bifurcation. And if you watch my podcast today, I don't know when you're going to put this out here, but today to me is Tuesday. We're going to show people how the unemployment rate is accelerating. Okay, and I think it's kind of scary. So and these jobs probably aren't going to come back, because they're going to be replaced with higher productivity tools going forward. You know, uh, you know, it used to be that you needed customer service people. They used to send it overseas, but now they're bringing it back, but it's all being done by AI agents. In 5 years, you won't even know who you're talking to, a person or an AI agent. That's how good it is. In fact, you and I, if we really, really wanted to, and we put a little bit of money in it, we can actually be replaced by an agent, and somebody can run our podcast for us. And you wouldn't. I would defy you to know that person's not real. Okay, that's how good they are now. And you start seeing it now. How many YouTubes you watch that it's basically robotic conversations, right? Somebody just sits there and writes the content out. And in fact, ChatGPT can write your content out. You say, I want to talk about these 6 things. Write me a 1,000-word, you know, right, and boom. And so people are doing that. I mean, one man band here could be collecting YouTube revenue. So that's what's happening. And so, people's abilities to adapt, or you have to have certain skills that just aren't replaceable at this point. But it's going to be really, really nasty and negative. And at some point, cash flow matters to companies, and you just get that gravity, and inflation's starting to take away the cash flow. We're starting to see that too. So bottom line is that we say, hey, look, we may get a blow off top here, or we may not here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then after that, I think the high's in for this economic cycle, and the downside can be pretty brutal.
Well, so let's talk about the AI thing for a minute, because it's fascinating, but it's also frightening, like you say. Most people don't realize this, but half the videos you watch where there's somebody talking and it sounds like a real person, it's most likely artificial intelligence. And you could, if you listen carefully with the pauses and the way that they emphasize the words, if you know what to listen for, you can tell if it's a real person or not usually. But it's like you have to really, really listen, and you have to. Like, for example, I was watching a video the other day where it said unalive somebody. And the way that it said it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's artificial intelligence. They could have used a different word, but they used, oh, that person was unalive. And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. No, sometimes they get things wrong, or the pronunciation or the accent on the syllables wrong. Then that's how you know. But they'll figure that out too. So but yeah, so that's what's in front of us, So, it's going to be adapt or die, I think.
What are you doing? Like, I'm looking at your most recent video where it says, a perfect storm. So, what's going on right now? Because last week it seemed, was it last week when the big tech stocks were just taking huge hits, like the top 7?
Yeah. So that was a Japan event. So Japan raised interest rates, and that's the carry trade.
Okay.
People can Google that. Basically, what they're doing is they're selling their currency, and with that, which has a low yield, and they're buying currencies that have a high yield. Well, the people in Japan do the same thing. They borrow money in yen, and then they buy American dollar assets. Well, that trade works as long as the yen keeps depreciating. Well, it actually popped, and they raised interest. When you raise interest rates, your currency gets stronger. Okay, because you attract investment with higher yield, and that caused a quick 10% correction. I mean, like lickety split, and that's not done yet. Japan's going to have to continue to do that, and so that's going to keep manifesting itself. And so that's what I mean by perfect storm. I mean, look, we don't know if something that's unexpected is going to come out of the Israeli-Iran conflict. Okay. We don't know when the carry trade unwinds, and it will unwind. It has no choice. It's like the water pushed up at super high tide. It has to come out because people have to monetize that trade. You just can't keep doing a one-way trade all the time. It'll monetize itself back out, and that's going to cause great dislocation for our market. Wages are falling, cash flows are falling, and we have a potential political environment. No matter who wins, it'll be 2 different kinds of problems. If Kamala Harris wins, they're going to try to go full on FDR. Okay. The problem is FDR didn't have all the deficits that we have. So that's going to cause a big problem. Okay. Basically, they'll wipe out the profitability of every corporation in the United States. Okay. And if Trump wins, he's going to enact, isolationist policies. Okay, and I don't mean necessarily foreign policy, but he will drag businesses back into the U.S. from other places where they've been arbitraging wages. Okay, he's going to throw a tariff on there, so he'll create inflation and wage inflation, and higher prices for goods and services, right? That have to come on shore, and so either way is not good. Okay, the Trump plan is actually preferable to the Kamala plan because we're out of balance anyway. We can't. We sent too much of our manufacturing capacity overseas. It's not good for our national interest, and I think we're under earning in wages. Okay, we're in balance that way, and so it needs to come back naturally, where we just force the businesses back in, and and um, and that also then creates a higher dollar, which then mitigates the uh, helps with imports anyway. So then the tariff can come into play. There's a lot of good things happening, but the bad thing that happens there is that it'll wash some inflation through the system. And so there's no really winner here. Look, we've been screwing around now for the past 40 years, and basically, we got to get our stomach pumped. But that's my take on it. So going into 2025, there's no good guys, and you have to be defensive. So that's what I mean by the perfect storm. And we talk about these things every day, and how we're preparing for it, because that begs the question, right? Okay, if you know all this, what are you doing about it? Is that bonds are good, so TLT is going to be a good trade. SERK is going to be a good trade, and then there's these high yield products from Yield Max, and there's another company I think for Stonehill or Greenhill or somebody like that has these high yield products that pay weekly or monthly. When I mean high yield, I'm talking minimum 20% annually up to 130% annually. And we pair them. They have some on the long side and the short side. You pair them together. You try to modify the volatility, bringing it down in the principal, and then you want to harvest the dividends, kind of like a broker. So we're doing that. We're positioned that way already, and so we're ready for the downstroke. But if it keeps going up, we still collect these huge dividends. So we consider it a win-win.
Yeah. So how does that work? You said from 20 to 130%?
Yeah. So like ExxonMobil has one of these derivative ETFs. So it's called XOMO. Paid a 21% annualized dividend last month. Okay. Well, ExxonMobil is not going anywhere, right? So, all the way up to MicroStrategy and NVIDIA, which paid up over 100% last year, because AI was hot and Bitcoin was hot. And so you buy the sector that's getting hot, or you pair it like Tesla. Tesla has a long ETF called TESLY, has a short ETF called Crash, TSLY, CRSH. You pair them in a bias, which way do you want to bias it? And then you hold them and you collect the dividend in between. So that's what we're doing. And NVIDIA has one, Coinbase has one, the Qs have one, and Tesla has one. So we're positioned that way as well. We haven't put the Qs one on yet because it hasn't paid its first dividend on the short side. But once it does that, we'll be loaded to that. And then we'll have relative consistency, as this market is imploding, because they make money when the market goes down on the short side, obviously. And so if we bias it right, the principal risk should be fairly mild, okay? And the yield should be maintained at a high level. And then we get to sit back and, let the world collapse around us, and then we can laugh uncontrollably. So that's kind of how we are. And then Bitcoin is going to be a function of liquidity. So, we still think there's a pump in there. We're at that point now where we're at the halving cycle where the pump usually happens. Every other time it's happened in this range. I think people said it should have started 3 weeks ago, and there's other people saying it's going to start in 4 weeks, from now. But we're in that range where it can go at any time. This morning Bitcoin popped, and then they sold it all back. But it looks like, and if you don't mind, let me just look real quick here.
No, please.
I actually got a trade on with MicroStrategy. Bitcoin's down now 350. It was up over 2,000 overnight. Okay, so they're still screwing around with Bitcoin, but at some point Bitcoin will ignite. Okay. And a lot of it has to do with the liquidity. And the reason why I'm looking this way is that I have a screen here and I have a screen here. Just the bigger screen. I'm an old guy, Rex, so I got to look at the bigger screen. So yeah, and we're getting a pullback today. We had 8 days straight up in the markets. Ninth day's unprecedented. Looks like they're going to try to keep that from happening, but it still may go green. But we think there might be a blow off top here. I'm less bullish than my partner is, but I trust he has good insight. I'm more of a look at the charts kind of guy. He's better at macro than I am. And so he's thinking that we should get a blow off. Seasonality tells us we should. Election year cycling tells us we should. I just think that we're kind of running up a down escalator right now, and the escalator is getting faster. I'm happy to be wrong because I'm still positioned long, but we just have to watch to see if we get a higher high or a higher low.
Halo.
Yeah, gosh. Well, I have so many tabs open that I'm like, where the hell is the Zoom thing at?
Nice.
But anyway, so that's kind of what we're doing. If you want to trade with us, I think we have a pretty good handle on what's going to happen here. And if not, I think we're hedged appropriately that, we will try to be the Hippocratic oath of trading here, try not to cause you much harm. But check our track record out. We put out every trade out there, whether we win or lose, so you can kind of get a sense of what we do, how we do it. We trade with our algorithms, so we do less gut and more chart, and it works out pretty well for us. So
for somebody that is watching this podcast for the first time and knows very little about trading and listen to everything that you just said about the way you position things and put things together and the dividends, etc. Do you have programs that show them how to do that, or do you have ways that you can help them get established? Or I just want to help those out there that are really new to the field here so that they can get a jump in the action, because once they do, I know that there's going to be probably no trading back for them.
So we have training courses that you can pay for. We have training courses that are part of the service. We the bundles that we have is you can trade stocks with us or cryptocurrency with it, or you can be in the VIP room where, like you and I are talking, you can actually have voice conversations with me versus chat. Okay. And the key is that we just have two really effective algorithms that help us with trend, momentum, and ranges. So we put ourselves in the best possible position to make money on the trades. Okay, so you can get in a room. I put trades out every day. Okay, so that you can actually take them if you want to. I don't take your money. I don't ask for your crypto. I don't give you individual stock advice other than what the chart says. Okay, I don't know your risk tolerances. I don't know how much money you have. I don't know what your goals are. I don't care. I'm just going to tell you algorithmically, this chart looks good or not, what levels look good, et cetera, et cetera. And we put those trades out and we have conversations. There might be things that I never trade that you trade. You can always ask me, what do you think of this stuff? I don't trade DJT. Everybody assumes I do because, I'm a Trumper, but I can care less about that stock. I have other stocks I'm interested in that I want to, I don't like it moving on news. DJT moves on news. I like things that move on different price action because I can't predict the news, right? So that's what we do. And then you have a great room, good people. We're all like-minded people here. Obviously we're self-selecting because the only shows they go on are people that are patriotic or lean conservative or Christian. Those are the shows that I'm comfortable on, and anybody's welcome. Everybody can have an opinion. I don't personally care. We're in America. You're free to feel anything you want to feel, be anything you want to be. I don't care. As long as you're not breaking the law, okay? Or you're a hypocrite saying you're a Christian but don't live a Christian life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Being Muslim, don't live a Muslim life. I don't care. So you're welcome. But those aren't people that tend to come. So it's a safe environment. People can talk, safe environment, no profanities allowed, none of that crap. So, say said crap and not the other word. And so we try to keep it professional, and we have great conversations. If you join the VIP room when trading gets slow, these things can range. I mean, we've talked about everything. Okay. I mean, from types of cards to end times, so whatever people want to talk about, as long as it's not illegal or immoral or people aren't rude, we have a good time with it. And we've built some really good friendships. I've had people with me for years, okay, in these rooms, and they're almost like family to me. So it's a fun thing. And what we charge for the service is nothing. What we get out of it, our pricing is great. People tell us we underprice our service, but I make enough. I enjoy it a lot. My gift is teaching, so I like doing it. And other than that, I'd be retired right now and be staring at my computer watching YouTube videos all day. So I'd rather do this. So that's kind of what we do and how we do it.
You're fun, man. And I learn a lot from you, and I appreciate you. And also, folks, if this is the first time you've seen Bob, Bob is actually he's a Marine. He served, and thank you. How long were you a Marine? I mean, I know you're always a Marine, but how long were you actually, uniformed Marine?
7 years.
Wow, 7 years, man. That's a
Yeah, well, half active, half reserve. So
that's really cool.
And I was an officer too. And people are interested. I was artillery officer, counter battery officer. So
Wow,
fun stuff.
very cool.
I figured since I couldn't hit a target with a rifle, they just gave me a bigger gun.
Oh man, how about that guy in Turkey in the Olympics, right? Oh man, he didn't have any of it, and he still got the silver.
Oh, the Turkish guy.
Yeah, that guy was pretty cool,
Yeah,
man.
that's kind of scary good stuff. So, my dad was a cop. Most people can't shoot a pistol, including cops. So, just so you know, there was a firefight when my dad was active, and guys were maybe 30 or 40 feet from each other. The cop and the criminal both unloaded their revolvers at each other, and they missed. Anyway, I digress.
That's horrible.
But anyway, that's kind of where we see things right now. Jackson Hole's Friday. The next week's usually a lift in the market. He's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be somewhat bearish or bullish. The market's definitely front running him. So there's almost 100% certainty they're going to lower rates in September. My personal view is by the time this is all over, rates will be back to zero again. Because of just the borrowing costs are too high for people. And they're going to have bankruptcies coming out the yazoo if they don't do it. In fact, they're already increasing. We have, I don't know if we'll show it or not. I think we have the bankruptcy rates are going back to records here again. So, and we're supposed to not even be in a recession. We have high bankruptcy rates, just to show you the lying that they do with the statistics. So, so it's very interesting, the environment. We're in the fourth turning. People know what that is, right? So that is a thing. It's when things get reset. And I don't mean global, the global order people. So I just think we're in an environment now where too many things are unsustainable and they have to reset. So that's the thing that's interesting to me. It's hard to say because, the right controls most of the land, right? What I would consider the right. Let's just keep it simple, right and left. And the left is in the cities. The right produces things, the left consumes things. Okay, so we have a really interesting environment where the left controls the coast, but they have to get their stuff from the hinterlands. And so I think there's a natural détente that comes from that. And you could try to do a lot of things, but Argentina tried that when that Kirchner lady was in charge. She basically told the farmers they have to sell their crops at a loss, to her so that she can sell it at a profit on export. Well, the farmers just refused to deliver the crops into Buenos Aires, right? And she had to back off in like 4 to 6 weeks, or her whole city was going to starve. So that's the kind of power you have when you control the land, right? All the oil is in right, all the food's in right, all the trains are in the right, all the truckers are right. Okay, so and I'm not saying whether advocate or don't advocate. I'm just simply laying out the scenarios if I was sitting in a think tank. Okay, and that's why everybody's worried about the CDBDC thing. They can control people by doing that. That only works until people decide to opt out. Okay, Remember, the opposite of love isn't hate; it's indifference. China's finding that out big time right now. You can scare people into submission, but you can also then have it turn against you by not fighting the system. It's the Gandhi approach, right? Gandhi won not by fighting, but by opting out. And that's what happens here. You beat a dictator by opting out. Okay. And I think that's happening in China. That's probably going to happen here too. And people just opt out of the system. And the system requires constant increase in velocity of economic activity or collapses on itself. And if Trump comes in, it'll be a whole different set of things he's going to do that we probably would agree with. But I'm assuming he won't win the election, so I can take worst case scenario. Right? They only have to win 5 cities, 5 what I call metro areas for the Democrats to win the election. So Phoenix, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and what's the other one? Let's see here. Oh, Detroit. And so if they can control those metro areas, they won the election. Okay, because that's where it counts. Look, I'm expecting the worst because our country has lost its integrity. So unless there's divine intervention here and people start getting religion, I don't mean spiritual religion, I mean political religion, and saying, hey, this can't keep going like this, or we won't have a country, then I think the next 4 years is going to be pretty bizarre.
I know we've gotten a little bit over here, so I really appreciate you giving your opinion. I just wanted to kind of throw this out there because watching the recent Olympic ceremony, the opening ceremony, is actually a ceremony of Dionysus and a bunch of people getting drunk and actually summoning insanity. If you look into it, it's summoning insanity. And when they raised the flag upside down in France for the opening ceremony, I think that was on purpose. But I think that the ceremony that they did, I think it's kind of a sign of the times. Like, you've got how did Rome fall? If you go back and you look at the way that Rome fell and a lot of these just high-rise civilizations, the way that they rose to the top and then they collapsed, it kind of seems like that is being put out into the world. So as a human being, as somebody that cares about the world, cares about people, I want to see this world a better place. Like, I think it's up to us to really be the change. And one way that we can be the change is like what you're doing. You're observing, but you're not falling trap. You're not falling victim. You're being successful with all of the roller coaster rides that are going on right now, and you're having a fun ride while you're at it. You can see Rome's burning, but you're building a new. You're not only securing freedom for your family and yourself, but you're kind of talking to people about, hey, look, Rome's burning. Here, maybe we should build something anew, or maybe we should figure out a way to put out the fire. Like you said, maybe you're drinking from a fire hydrant. Let's figure this out together instead of just hiding in a corner. Because so many people, they get trapped and they go hide in the corner and they say, woe is me, and they don't do it. And then they're bringing that energy to them. Whereas you're doing the exact opposite. And that's one thing I really appreciate about you. And I really appreciate you've always had the same mindset. Every time I talk to you, you stuck to your values, and I appreciate that. And I think you're a cool guy. So I appreciate you coming on here and spending some time with me on the Leap Project. Bob, thank you.
Yeah, remember, Rome didn't fall in one day. It fell over 300 years. So you have to, be careful. There's a lot of similarities between the United States and Rome, but there's also a lot of dissimilarities too. So it's going to be really, interesting, set of environments. I don't worry about myself so much. I worry more about my daughter. Is she going to have a world that she, safe and effective, and you have children too, so you appreciate that. But things go in cycles here, and I think people are tired of being tired. Actually, I think the biggest mistake the left made was getting into the schools with their nonsense. Nothing gets a mama bear going by screwing with your kids. And the left doesn't know that because a lot of these people in charge don't have kids. you know, and if they have kids, they don't have kids in that environment, so they don't even know. And so I think a lot of them were shocked, by the pushback. And I think inflation is, people would rather be in a recession than be in an inflation environment. They just did a poll on it. And the reason being is that if you go into a recession, most people think they won't be affected. they'll keep their job. But inflation, there's no escape. Everybody's costs go up. Okay, so inflation is insidious that way, and it's definitely lethal for a politician. That's why they're panicking about how to do that. But when she did her approach on the we're gonna stop prices from going up, I could just think of Jimmy Carter and or Gerald Ford whip inflation now. Remember the win buttons and well, you probably weren't even born then, but I was a teenager in the 70s, so we remember all that stuff. And I think we're going to repeat it. I think the analog for the stock market is the 70s. And if we don't get it right, it'll quickly move to the 1920s. Okay. So that's kind of where we are. But anyway, I digress. Hope people like the show here. Come check us out. Come trade with us. There's good trades every day. We don't care if the market goes up or down. You can make money. And you don't have to do crazy things. There are effective ETFs out there without even any leverage that you can get on the right side of these trades. So with that, Rex,
thank you.
I'll let you go. I got to go back at it. I'm sure people are pinging me back in my room.
Go make some money. Thank you, Bob. Much appreciated. I'm just going to give one more shout out to your website and your YouTube channel. So go to tradelikeagenius.com. 65% off the bundled items right now. I'll show you right here. And look at those two legends right there. YouTube, Spotify, use the code SUMMER for non-bundled items. You'll get 40% off. And then the bundled items are up to 65% off. So, and then subscribe right here and then hit the bell for all notifications. And Bob, you're awesome, man. Thank you very much. Go make some money.
I'll see you soon, Rex. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're sending, you've been cutting, I'm ascending. I'm one of them winning. I'm one of them winning. Go take a look at the pen that I'm making my money like it's never ending. I took all my losses, I roll with the bosses, I know where they cost and I'm so independent. Go take a look at the pen that I'm making my money like it's never ending. I took all my losses, I roll with the bosses, I know where they cost and I'm so independent.